All right. I'm calling to order the Town of Los Gatos Town Pension and OPEB Trust Oversight Committee. I'll ask the clerk to take the roll, please.
Councilmember Committee Member Rennie?
Here.
Councilmember Committee Member Moore?
Here.
Councilmember Committee Member Hudis?
Here.
Vice Mayor Committee Member Badami?
Here.
Mayor Chair Risto?
Here. Thank you. We have nobody participating remotely. I will then turn to the consent items. We have one item, which is approving the minutes of the September 19th meeting. Do I have discussion, a motion, questions? I guess I need to open this to the public for any comment. If any member of the public would like to speak on the consent item, I see no one in the room. Do we have anyone on Zoom with a hand raised?
There are no hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, I'll close the public comment and turn to my fellow committee members to see if anyone has any comments or would like to make a motion. Councilmember Rennie.
I move approval of the minutes from the OPEB meeting of September 19th.
Councilmember Hudis.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed. Motion passes 5-0. With that, I'll move to verbal communications. At this point in the meeting, anyone can speak to us on any item not on the agenda. We have nobody in council chambers watching. I don't know if we have anyone on Zoom with a hand raised.
There's no one with their hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will close verbal communications and we will move to our other business. So item 2 is receiving the California Employers Pension Pre-Funding Trust, and I will turn to our Finance Director, Ungvari.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Gitte Ungvari, Finance Director. The item in front of you, that was just a regular item, received a California Employee Pension Pre-Funding Trust called CEPPT Strategy 2 Market Value Summary Report for the period ending September 30th, 2023, and the performance as of October 31st, 2023. September 30th, the CEPPT Trust had a $1,351,903 in a trust, as in it can be seen attachment 1, and the October 31st net return was negative 2.16% for the month and negative 5.54% for the fiscal year to date. The CPPT Trust was established to mitigate pension costs. The town regularly budgets $390,000 with a regular budget, and if year-end surpluses exist per policy, we put an additional $300,000 in the trust. The staff plans to put an additional $690,000 to the CPP Trust in fiscal year 2023-24. Per the March 23rd Pension OPEB Oversight Committee action, the town decided to leave the money in the trust, and we'll just discuss in the future with the Finance Commission, and the town, this board will consider whether additional payment should be paid to CalPERS from that trust. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you. Do any council members have preliminary questions before I open this to public comment? Okay, seeing none, I will open this item to public comment, and I have no one in the room still. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. So with that, I'll turn back to my fellow council members for questions, comments, or a motion. And we're receiving it, so I'll turn to our town attorney. We don't need a motion on this, do we? Okay, so does anyone have any comments before we consider this received? Okay, with that, we will move on to item 3. Thank you.
Thank you. This is another regular item that we bring every quarter. This is about received the California Employee Retire Benefit Trust, the SERP Strategy 1 Market Value Summary Report for the period ending September 30th, 2023, and the performance report as of October 31st, 2023. The OPEB 115 Trust was established in 2009. Currently, as September 30th, the trust has $23,366,797, as can find in attachment 1. The SERP, the Strategy 1 fund, had a net return of negative 3.38% for the month and negative 7.16% as of October 3rd. The OPEB 115 Trust is in the Strategy 1, which more risk. We can see that the negative return was higher than the prior trust that has in a different strategy category. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions before we open this to any public comment? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk, do we have anybody on Zoom with their hand raised for this item?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, thank you. We'll close the public comment and turn to my fellow council members for any comments on receiving this item. Okay, it looks like we were well received, so I'll close that item and move to item 4, please.
So the item is received the CalPERS Public Employee Retirement Fund, the PERF, performance report as of September 30th, 2023. The PERF report for September 30th had a net return of negative 2.5% at PERF fund. The PERF fund is just including all the funds that CalPERS has, or the participating agencies, and we just bring it as an informational item, and that the fund usually just would have a similar performance than or other pension 115 trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like Councilmember Rennie has a question.
Yeah, it says that the negative 2.5 is fiscal year to date as of September 30, but then I thought that was the end of the fiscal year, so I'm confused. When is the fiscal year over?
So the fiscal year is over the fiscal year is over June 30th. So this is the first quarter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other Councilmember Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. So a more general question. It seems like, there's been a lot of negative returns. Is that what you've seen kind of across municipalities across the market, that there's funds are just not doing very well right now?
This is just a quarter, and this is what we see across the board with our trust funds at this point.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hand raised, so I will open this item to public comment. And again, I'll ask the clerk if there's anyone on Zoom with their hand raised.
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. With that, I'll close the public comment and look to any other comments or questions. Okay, it looks like we've received this report, item 4, so we'll now move to item 5 and take the report on that.
Thank you. So CalPERS issue a annual review of funding level and risk report, and this is, I believe, the second time that this report is shared with the entire board. Staff routinely monitors items presented in CalPERS Investment Committee, Board of Administration. So while the town has no fiduciary control over the investment decision determined by CalPERS, but we know from experience it's really affecting the town. So we just follow those. Attachment contains the CalPERS 2023 annual review and then funding level and risk. So just a couple of highlights of this report. The CalPERS estimated funded funded status increased from 7.9% to 7.2% as June 30th, 2023. CalPERS commented that why CalPERS plans are not 100% funded. They really see that members contributing and members are contributing additional payments as well. The CalPERS valuation report use discount rates of 6.8%, an inflation assumption 2.3%, and the payroll growth assumption of 2.8%. This report also using the latest available asset liability management study, what they use, but they are going to update that study in 2025. So this report just talks about the funded status and all of the details that goes in, and a possible cash flow projection and cash flow problem for the CalPERS and different factions. So it's really just a brief review, and if you have any question, I am happy to answer. We just wanted to share with you. As you know, we receive our evaluation report and actuary evaluation report that's help us to project for the following year budget cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any questions right now? All right, then I will open public comment on this item, and with no one in the room, I'll ask the clerk if there's anyone on Zoom with their hand raised for this item.
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, quiet meeting tonight. With that, I'll look to fellow council members if you have any questions. Councilmember Rennie.
Yeah, one item here. I guess in the section where it says there's various strategies and actions by CalPERS and its board that it's recommending to improve the sustainability for the member agencies, and it goes into identified by CalPERS, and one of them is the use of a separate 115 trust by many CalPERS agencies for minimizing the risk of a required contribution spikes and volatility. So does that mean that they are suggesting that we, rather than put all our funds straight into CalPERS, we should be keeping them some funds in a separate 115 trust?
So I believe this is one of their strategy. I don't think they're recommending not to put in ADP additional funding, but this is one of the mechanisms to help to mitigate in the long run.
So if I could just add, Council Member, good question. I think what they're saying is that they're expecting that all member agencies would continue to make their regular annual payments, but that to consider a 115 trust, as the town of Los Gatos has done, so that way if you have any additional assets, you can manage them and hopefully have investments that will grow. So that way when there are spikes in the costs, you have some funds to be able to pay your regular payment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I guess a follow-on question is, we have been doing that. Are many other municipalities doing this, having the 115, or is this kind of going to be a new idea for them?
So I don't have the statistic on it, but I believe many jurisdictions started to do it. Los Gatos started quite a while ago with the PARS, and then we just changed to the CPPT. But I think it's getting more common, and I think this is why CalPERS listed it's one of them, because they want to make sure that the member agency are able to pay their required contribution, and seeing that trend gives just some stability for the plan itself.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Rennie.
And I'll just remind us that when we were keeping several $1 million in a PARS 115 trust in a fund that was equally aggressive to if it had been put in CalPERS. Currently, we're sitting, and you tell me if I'm wrong, actually we're using a CalPERS fund instead of a PARS fund now, but we're using a strategy fund that is less aggressive and is safer, but has a less projected return than putting it into CalPERS. And we're using that because we were thinking nothing would sit there very long. It would just be a quick holding until we paid down a tranche. This seems to be saying, we're potentially recommending we go back to the strategy we had before, where we keep funds for a longer period of time in a separate one that we can then use against spikes. But it seems to me we shouldn't be in a low performing fund if we're going to keep it for a while to save against spikes. So something that we should be maybe revisiting again.
Yes, absolutely.
In fact, we will be bringing this to the January Finance Commission meeting to ask their opinion about not only the strategies, but also whether or not we should be making an additional discretionary payment. So we expect for your first quarter meeting in 24, you'll have a recommendation at least from our Finance Commission on this point.
Great, thank you. And to clarify, our next meeting will be in a quarter, so it'll be after we've had a budget discussion and we know some other things about our standing. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I'm losing my mind. I did open this to public comment, yes. They're getting a little repetitive, I apologize. Okay, so with that, does anyone else have any comments before we close this item? All right, I'll thank our finance director and our manager for the reports. And with that, I'll close this item and adjourn the meeting.